Right now, in your brain, there's a chemical reward system that's built for a world without candy bars, soda, or birthday cake. And every time you eat sugar, you're pulling a lever that system was never designed to handle. So, what actually happens inside your skull in the seconds, hours, and years after you eat sugar? Why does it feel so good, and why is it so hard to stop at just one bite? Let's break it down. The moment sugar touches your tongue, taste receptors send the signal straight to your brainstem, and within seconds, your brain's reward center, a region called the nucleus accumbens, releases a flood of dopamine. Dopamine isn't really the pleasure chemical people say it is. It's more like the wanting chemical. It's what makes you crave the next bite before you've even finished the first one. Here's the wild part. Brain imaging studies show that sugar activates the same reward pathway as nicotine, cocaine, and other addictive substances, just to a smaller degree. That's not to say sugar is exactly like a drug, but the underlying circuitry, the one that says do that again, is remarkably similar. Meanwhile, your blood sugar's spiking. Glucose rushes into your bloodstream and your pancreas releases insulin to shuttle it into your cells, including your brain cells, which run almost entirely on glucose for fuel. For a few minutes, you genuinely feel sharper, more alert, maybe even a little euphoric. But here's the catch. That insulin surge doesn't know when to stop. It often overshoots, pulling too much glucose out of your blood. And about 30 to 60 minutes later, you hit a blood sugar crash. This is why sugar highs are almost always followed by a slump. Brain fog, irritability, fatigue, and you guessed it, another craving for something sweet to fix the very problem sugar just caused. Your brain is incredibly sensitive to these swings because unlike your muscles, it can't store much energy of its own. It depends on a steady supply of glucose. So when levels crash, cognitive functions like focus, memory, and mood regulation take a real hit. This roller coaster, spike, crash, crave, repeat, is one of the main reasons sugar can feel so hard to moderate. What happens with repeated exposure? Now here's where it gets more serious. This isn't just a one-time thing. Your brain adapts to repeated sugar intake. With frequent high sugar eating, the brain's dopamine receptors can become less sensitive over time. Researchers call this downregulation. It means the same amount of sugar produces less of a reward than it used to, so you need more to feel that same hit. That's the basic mechanism behind tolerance, and it looks a lot like what happens with other addictive substances. There's also a growing body of research connecting chronic high sugar intake to problems with the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory and learning. Diets high in added sugar have been linked in both animal and human studies to impaired memory performance and even changes in hippocampal structure. And long-term, excess sugar intake is associated with insulin resistance, not just in the body, but potentially in the brain itself. Some researchers have gone so far as to nickname severe insulin resistance in the brain type 3 diabetes because of how strongly it's linked to cognitive decline and dementia risk later in life. This is still an active area of research, but the association is concerning enough that many neuroscientists take it seriously. It's not just memory and focus. Sugar also messes with your emotional regulation. Chronic high sugar consumption has been linked in multiple studies to higher rates of anxiety and depressive symptoms. Part of this may come from the blood sugar roller coaster itself. Mood often tracks glucose levels more closely than we realize. Part of it may come from inflammation. Diets high in refined sugar are associated with increased inflammatory markers, and there's increasing evidence that chronic inflammation plays a role in mood disorders. So that sugar rush feeling isn't free. It's often borrowed against how you'll feel an hour later. Now, before this starts to sound like sugar is some kind of villain, a little context. Glucose is essential. Your brain needs it to function, and naturally occurring sugars in fruit, dairy, and other whole foods come packaged with fiber, protein, or fat that slow absorption and prevent the sharp spikes we talked about. The real issue is added sugar, the kind in sodas, candy, and processed snacks, consumed frequently and in large amounts. The encouraging part, your brain's reward system is adaptable in both directions. Studies on sugar reduction show that cravings and dopamine sensitivity can partially normalize within weeks of cutting back. Your taste buds also recalibrate. Foods that didn't taste very sweet before can start to taste sweeter once you're not overwhelming your palate constantly. So the next time you reach for something sweet, you'll know exactly what's happening upstairs. The dopamine hit, the glucose spike, the crash waiting on the other side, and the slow rewiring that happens if it becomes a daily habit. Sugar isn't evil, but your brain didn't evolve for a world where it's everywhere, all the time, and now you know why that matters. If you found this useful, hit subscribe for more videos breaking down the science of how everyday habits shape your brain. See you in the next one.